Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian. Pete joining shortly to discuss what's going on with a very big shareholder of Nvidia deciding it might be time to take a break. Well, he's on Michael Burry's heels, I guess, but he's not shorting it. He's taking profit, unlike Michael Burry. We'll have the 411 on that on today's Rebel's Edge. Boom.
Here we go. You know what? We haven't been seeing your little snapper, man. I don't know what the hell you did with it, but
when I'm traveling, it's just one more thing to put in the bag, man.
I get it. I get it.
I try to be as light as possible when I travel, Pete.
I don't blame you.
But by the way, we are catching a ride on a friend's jet today, so that's not a bad thing. We're going to be flying back to Miami, and it's not Grant Cardone's jet. I would have had to leave yesterday if it was that, Pete, because Grant was out here and he's on stage and he's stomping around on stage, and he is just the best. He's the funniest dude. When he wants to be, he is so funny, and then every once in a while he gets real serious too about something. But he is funny. Anyway. From the Cayman Islands, and Pete in points undisclosed, we are coming to you on the Market Rebellion Television Network. Thanks for joining us. We always dive into macro first, and today, Pete, I'm going to say my macro is I think the President of the United States is one of the funniest dudes in the world. And I loved when he said, Pete, that, well, for all those air traffic control people that didn't come into work, first of all, I should fine you, even though he's not paying them. And second of all, for everybody that did come in, by the way, I'm giving them a $10,000 raise or a bonus, not a raise, not a permanent thing, but a $10,000 bonus. The guy is just gold, comically gold.
Yes.
But I do kind of agree with the idea, not that you can force people to work that you're not paying. I don't agree with that. But I do think that the people that did make that sacrifice and came into work and didn't get paid, not only are they getting back pay, but according to what the president wants, he's going to get them $10,000. So that's my macro today, Pete.
You got to love it. That's a great bonus, man. I'll tell you what, that's outstanding. And, you know, you and I both flown a lot recently, and there's a little bit of grumbling around with some of the folks working there where they're like, yeah, it'd be a lot better. Like, how's your day going? It'd be a lot better if I was getting paid. So they might like that bonus, John. I'm going to hit right at SoftBank and the fact that they wanted to sell and did sell their entire stake in Nvidia. Optically, I find that to be very interesting because why? The financing needs is what they said. And so we'll see, but they are out right now. Interesting to see because there's still plenty of runway there, John, if you're believing in the AI, but maybe their thought is, hey, we're going to take a little break on AI for a while. And that must be their thinking because that's a pretty substantial $6 billion investment that they had.
Yeah, and the stock reflects it today, Pete. You know, it's that's the weakness that you see in the NASDAQ, although weakness, 0.8%, come on. Yeah. But that stock is down some $6, Nvidia today. So probably still not enough to save Michael Burry, who is still buried. We should almost do a daily update, Pete, on how bad Burry is buried. And see if he ever gets back to break even in that trade, let alone making money. Because people that saw the news, they think that he made money on the trade. He has not. Not by my calculation. Now, we'll see when he files his next 13F, but I'm thinking the account's going to be a little lighter than it was prior. Yeah. As far as futures, Pete, I'm going to say about a 5% rally out of nat gas. Mm-hmm. And you know why nat gas is in such demand, folks? Yes, we are going into winter in the United States, but also it runs data centers. So when you've got demand coming from everywhere, I think that's reasonable to assume that nat gas probably continues its upward trend.
Totally agree with you, John. That was one of the things I was looking at as well, is this nat gas. It's at the highest levels it's been in over 3 years, back to 2022. So pretty substantial, I would say, and worth pointing out. By the way, the VIX itself, boy, it's just found itself in that same, another range, John. What's the range? 17 to 19. Yeah, we get a blip up over 20 once in a while. Sits up there for a couple hours, and then before we get to the close, boom, it's back there towards 18 or 19. So interesting to watch how the VIX has been sort of just pushing at that whole 20 level. Gets up there, and we had some VIX call buying again today, so we'll see if they're going to be right into the future. But as of right now, John, just looking at things, it seems like it's 17 to 19 with those blips that don't last very long, hours, not days.
Well, let's dive into stocks, Pete, starting with Big Bear.
Sure.
Because Big Bear AI is a stock that I know you and I think Justin had really dived into last year in December, maybe it was. It was either November, December last year. Maybe you guys were in it earlier than that. But it was a $1 stock that has made a pretty good move. I mean, it's been higher than this, but it rallies about 15% today on stronger than expected Q3 EPS and this $250 million acquisition of Ask Sage. I guess that's helping drive some of the rev here, Pete. So what do you see on BBAI?
Yep, like what they're doing, John, up 10% today, got all the way up to 7 and then pulled back just a little bit. There's some shorts in there, some pretty high number shorts, call it 17%, but they also reaffirmed their full year guidance on the rev outlook or whatever. So looking at that, pretty great. And when they talked about this Ask Sage, John, the other thing they mentioned was, hey, look, we're still looking. We would love to find something else and get that maybe even before the end of the year. So they are out there looking. They want to expand. They want to do these things. They got a great balance sheet. I think this is one of those where they delivered, I think, in just about every single category. Stock is reflecting that right now, being up about 10%. I think there is plenty of more upside in this one. But for those who are probably trying to trade it, you had a pretty nice lift today. So interesting to see how it's doing. And I think if they make a few more acquisitions, John, this is a stock that people ought to keep their eye on, because if they can get all these things and this can make them that much more efficient, I think BBAI is a stock that could give another run to the upside.
Well, what about Rocket Lab making a run to the upside, Pete? 5%, then 8%, then 10%. I mean, it's been moving up throughout the day. And here's the big reason behind that, folks. The revenue was up 48% year over year, which is pretty phenomenal. They're still losing money, but I think they probably do an awful lot of the launches that Mr. Musk isn't doing, Pete, because Musk, he accounts for, with SpaceX, 95% of all lift into space this year. 95%. These guys, they've secured 17 launches in the quarter. And that's kind of like a week for Elon Musk, I think. But that's not to say that you shouldn't pay attention to Rocket Lab, though, folks. I mean, there's got to be a couple competitors, and this is one for SpaceX.
Yeah, absolutely. And they put up a good quarter. You just mentioned it, John. But are they still losing money? Yes, they are, but not nearly as much. They lost 3 cents this go around. A year ago, they lost 10 cents. So they're doing a lot of things right. Obviously, that revenue you talked about being up 48%, that's a big number year over year. It's also a record number for them. So 155 million. I see a lot of positives here. I don't see a whole lot of negatives here. They talk about their backlog, and they're pretty proud about that as well. The stock is right there kind of in the upper part of the middle, John. On the lows, it's been $14. On the high, it's been 73. It's sitting right around 55 right now, with about 12% shorts in this one too, which at any moment could become something that could give this thing a little bit more of a ride to the upside if it starts to squeeze a little bit on them. But they have a great looking balance sheet. You look at the strength of their cash over their debt and so forth. They look pretty good. So I like this stock. And we've seen some unusual option activity in there, not in here not too long ago, as a matter of fact. It might even been today. But Rocket Labs is something I think to keep your eye on.
Well, another one is Larry Ellison's son, David, because Paramount Skydance, Pete, PSKY is the symbol. Well, they came out with their first earnings since their merger with Paramount Global and Skydance Media. Skydance Media, of course, was what Mr. Ellison owned prior, and then he basically bought Paramount, and he's trying to get Warner Discovery as well, Pete. So this is a pretty good report, and the stock moved up nicely on the quarter, coming in at 6.7 billion, even though there were expectations of all the way up to 7 billion. Still a pretty good quarter for Mr. Ellison.
And as you mentioned, John, first quarter of a report since they've gotten themselves together, up about 8%, I think, last I looked. Maybe it's more than that, maybe less. But free cash flow in there, John, of 14 billion. I'd say that they're sitting in a good spot. They did have a little bit of a blip with the TV side of the report. It was down about 12%. The film side on the revenue was up about 30%. So you're going back and forth a little bit. I'm sure they're going to get this thing figured out. And I'm also pretty confident that they might make another acquisition somewhere along the way, John, as you kind of sort of put out there, because you know what? Plenty of money and a lot of interesting ways that they can get this to grow in the right way. So I would keep a very close eye on PSKY. This is going to be a very, very interesting stock into the future, I think.
Yeah, and maybe some of that decline, Pete, in TV media was, quite frankly, because Yellowstone and
right.
Some of these. I mean, people subscribe to Paramount Plus and so forth because they want a lot of the Taylor Sheridan productions.
Yeah.
And, Yellowstone, yeah, you can still watch it, but it's had its run, it's over. They'll keep it on Paramount Plus, but once you've seen it, there are probably some it's gone.
Yeah.
All right. Or gone by as in no new episodes or anything.
Right.
But Casey's going to be back, by the way, Pete. He's written a new one just for Casey. And for all you Yellowstone fans, I'm sure you'll appreciate it. All right, Pete, let's talk about CoreWeave and let's talk about unusual option activity, because this is one that basically they had, they've got heavy investments for them to basically bring what they do to light. And when the stock was $108, well, somebody bought a lot of December puts. And now look at how far out of the money those were, though, folks. They were buying the D55 puts with the stock double that price.
Yeah.
Well, stock traded down hard today, and it's trading down even harder right now as we speak, Pete. I think it's about $90, maybe 91, something like that. I like the company and what they do, but I understand why they're getting hit. And by the way, folks, if you do scan that QR code that was on the screen with that unusual activity, it'll take you right to the spot where you can join and trade like Pete and John by being a member of Market Rebellion. But what do you think about these numbers, Pete? And would you buy the dip?
Yeah, well, it really is intriguing because of the fact that, their CapEx, I think that's what everybody was focused on, John, because you look at this thing and you start, kicking the tires, so to speak, and you say, well, what about this? What about next? What's next? Here's what's next. Their CapEx is going to double the 2025 numbers that they had. So that's a heck of a lot of money that's going to go into this thing. And I think that got people a little bit concerned because, are we in that bubble sort of area? That's what everybody keeps asking. I personally have some ideas about that whole thing, and I don't necessarily see the bubble. I do see that they need a lot of power. And you and I talked about nat gas being at these 3-year highs and all of the different demands that goes into the whole process of AI and all the rest with data centers. They did beat on the top and the bottom. They looked like they did some things right. They got a big backlog that they're actually going to push out from Q4 to Q1 of next year. So I think that people are just a little bit concerned about the amount of cash that's going to have to go out there, John, for them to be able to get this with the CapEx. And that's always a concern for any stock. But in their case, when you talk about a company that's been out here for a little while now, It was last trading when I looked, John, like you said, right around 90, call it maybe 91. But regardless of that, the fact that they're going to double that CapEx number, I can see why some people might say, you know what, maybe I'm going to hold back for a little bit here, see how things play out. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And those 55 puts still have another month as well, John. They're the December. So it could be interesting if this thing started to get a little bit of any kind of momentum going to the downside. Those things probably have already moved pretty good. They might move a lot better if people are still holding on to some. Maybe they took off half and they're holding half. You never know.
Yeah. And keep in mind, folks, that Pete and I usually are buying at the money options, not out of the money options. Sometimes,
Right.
if it's just a shot, I don't like to gamble, but if it's something that's this far out of the money, Pete, it does feel more like a gamble buying those 55 puts. Now, they moved up along with the stock drop because that's what puts do. But if you were somewhere in the 105 puts, for instance, you're a much happier camper today than if you were in the 55 puts because it's a long way from 55 still.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, I know you liked this one of our Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams, but let's take a look and listen to a little video here of somebody describing the great, apparently, Caleb Williams.
He's getting there.
The eternal question for the Chicago Bears is, why can't we figure quarterback out?
Why can't we figure quarterbacks out?
Quarter comeback, another one by Caleb Williams. Two things that have always been true about Caleb Williams. Really durable, doesn't get hurt, and he doesn't throw picks. Let me add a third. He's
not
clutch.
bad.
If you start looking at
clutch.
Caleb Williams' fourth quarter numbers in the 4 game-winning drives, his passer rating is like 145.
Jeez.
He's a better quarterback under duress, trailing. He's an unbelievable game-winning drive, fourth quarter quarterback.
That doesn't sound bad, John.
No, it doesn't. But I'll give you a little of the fair and balanced side of that, Pete.
Okay.
You know how many teams that with those 4 comebacks that we've had come from behind wins? You know how many of them have winning records? 0. Now, I'm not a Caleb hater. I think this guy is a real quarterback that we have for the first time in a long time, maybe ever, because Bobby Douglas was not. When you go through, like 17 quarterbacks in 17 years or whatever, you're just not developing a quarterback and you're not really good at picking them.
Right.
McMahon was okay, Pete.
Yeah.
And I think you'd agree. He's a nice guy. We played golf with him. Was he a great NFL quarterback? No. On any other team, I think he would have been a backup, Pete. I mean,
he was colorful. He was colorful.
But I mean, when you beat the Raiders, which are, pretty pathetic, the Giants, which are pretty pathetic, the Bengals, which are pretty pathetic, you kind of get the idea that now we get to play teams that have winning records. It's going to get a little tougher. If he has a few game-winning drives in those, then I'll echo your favorite coach in football, Pete. Crown him. He was
Denny Green, baby.
Denny Green was the best.
He was the best. Well, I love it, John, and I think you point out all the things like I point out. This past weekend, John, real quick, I'll just say this. Watching the Viking game, right? You look into the second half. What happens in the second half? That defense that everybody says we got the best defensive coordinator in football. Well, why is it we're giving up 150 yards a game to the running side of things if we're that good? And you know how they stop the run, John? They bring up the safeties so they can stop the run. You know what the teams do then? They throw the ball. I mean, if you wonder why the Vikings lose games, it's because of the fact that nobody wants to admit that center part of their defense is too small, from the linebackers to the 2 defensive linemen that they gave a heck of a lot of money to, John. And teams run all over us until we stack it up, and then they start throwing the ball around, and that's unfortunately why they're at the bottom of that division right now. All that being said, how about this for the NFL? I'll throw this out to you. Now, everybody's been talking about Drake May. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor deserves as much as he's gotten. And I think Drake May has done a phenomenal job, right? But if you ask me right now, who's going to be the MVP of the league, I'm going to give you one name, and I think he stands out above all of them, and that's Matthew Stafford. And here's the crazy part. Johnny's 37 years old. He had a nice 12-year run with the Lions. He had a 5-year run so far with the Rams. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's done all this stuff. I mean, the guy doesn't get much credit. But this year, how about this for numbers? 25 touchdowns. 25 touchdowns. Jared Goff has 20. He's got 2 interceptions. I think Jared Goff only has 2 or 3 himself. So I'm just looking at it, and I'm not trying to compare him because of the trade they did. I'm just saying that Jared Goff's a damn good quarterback. He's having a really phenomenal year. And then all of a sudden you look over at the Rams, who are 7-2, and you look at this quarterback who's 37 years old that a lot of people were kind of giving up on him, John, over the last year or two. And then all of a sudden, just take a look at how you like me now, right? I mean, this guy is doing it all. When you look at his passer ratings and 114, and you look at all the different things, he's got the 3rd highest completion rate in his career right now. So everything he's putting it together right now with a really good football team. And that guy is my MVP outside of Jonathan Taylor. I could see. I totally get it. But as much as Drake May, I like him, and he runs the ball pretty well, and he's a big guy and all the rest of that. I don't know. I look at the Rams and I just see what's going on for this 37-year-old quarterback, and he looks pretty damn good, John.
He does. And I'll point out, I was comparing him to Daniel Jones, Pete, considerably younger quarterback, but having a great year also, and has a higher completion percentage, but also has a higher interception number. He's thrown 7 interceptions against 15 touchdowns. That's, pretty damn close to 2-1. Meanwhile, like you said, 25-2 touchdowns to interceptions for Mr. Stafford. So obviously I got to give the nod to him. But I'll point out one fact before we move on to the next one, and that is that these 2 quarterbacks, both of them with winning teams, 8-2 for the Colts, 7-2 for the Rams. You know how many rushing yards each quarterback has, Pete? Matt Stafford has 24 rushing yards this year. That's the first quarter for Lamar Jackson when he's healthy, or for Josh Allen, or for Mahomes. That's the first quarter. And this is the year for Matt Stafford. And for Daniel Jones, 40 yards. So what does this perhaps tell some people that don't pay as much attention to this stuff as you and I do? You don't really want the quarterback running that much. Number one, they get hurt. And then they get stripped in some cases of the football because they're running in the open field. And we know they're going to slide most of the time or run out of bounds. And I don't blame them because they're not wearing the same protective gear that the other guys are wearing. Certainly not to the same degree because they need to get the flexibility for the arm motion and all. But the fact that these 2 guys haven't had to run means that their offensive lines are good and that the offensive scheme is also good for both of these 2. So if you're looking for an O coordinator, go to Indianapolis or go to Los Angeles and steal those guys.
Ain't that the truth? All right, John, how about this? I know we talked a little bit about college football. We talked about the playoff. I'd like to hit one last thing. Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's very interesting, right? Because they're independent, but they also have a deal sort of with the ACC of some sort. I mean, the whole thing is a little bit convoluted or whatever. But all of that stuff, you put it all together, they got a couple of losses. But here's what I'd like to say to you on this one, John. Are they truly a great team, or are they just a good team with 2 losses? Here's what they've got. Their first loss was to the Miami Hurricane. When Miami was ranked number 10, they were pretty high up there. And they lost to them 27-24. Good game. Now Miami's number 16. They also went toe-to-toe with Texas A&M, which I got to give them a lot of credit for that game because Texas A&M still undefeated, and they're unbelievable to watch, and they're one of the top teams ready for the playoff. They lost to them. So they got 2 losses. Those are their 2 losses. They have beaten 1 team who's been ranked so far this year. 1. It was USC, ranked number 20 at the time of the that they played. Now USC's moved up to 17, so I give them their credit. They do have an opportunity this weekend against number 24, which is Pitt. But that's it. After that, John, they go right through the rest of the little sisters of the poor. So I guess what I'm saying is, and this is not, I'm not a hater of Notre Dame. As a matter of fact, he might be one of my favorite coaches in college football because I love who he is as a man, as a coach, as a mentor to all these guys. He is unbelievable, and I think the world of him. But daggone it, they need to have a little bit of a different schedule, John. If you go back and look at who they play, it's like, really? Whatever happened to the games with Michigan, right? And some of the others out there where, they've got some rivalries and stuff. Yeah, they got the USC one that's still on there. But I think that's what concerns me a little bit about, Notre Dame, John, is that they haven't beaten a team yet with that's been ranked. And maybe they will. Maybe they'll be able to turn that corner, John. And maybe they'll be able to beat they beat USC, but maybe they can beat Pitt this weekend, who's number 24. What do you think?
They'll beat Pitt. I think they'll beat Pitt. Yeah. But you're right, Pete. Yeah, that what do they say? Iron sharpens iron or whatever. I mean, if you never play anybody good for the rest of this year, they're going to skate through to the playoffs, I believe.
Right.
And with 2 losses, of course they're going to make it. I don't think anybody else really challenges them. But then the question's going to be, are they good enough?
Yeah.
I mean, Texas A&M just gets better and better every week. I mean, you're lucky that you lost to them in a close game several weeks ago. Early. If you play them several weeks from now, that's a whole different Aggie team. Now they've got the momentum and the confidence and everything else. So I think the best in the country right now are Texas A&M, Indiana. Yeah, I said it, Indiana, and Ohio State. But I'll throw Texas Tech right there with them, Pete.
Yep.
And I don't think Notre Dame beats any of those 4, any of them.
And you know who's gotten better? They're not great still, but not bad for, 2 lost Texas. Everybody's kind of given up on them because they looked so bad early on. And now all of a sudden they're getting a little bit better. And they got their 2 losses, but they've had a much different schedule with the SEC versus what Notre Dame has done. And, if you're Notre Dame, I think that you'd be okay to have a few other different teams than what they're doing right now into the future, because at some point, you've got to look at it and just say, all right, let's readjust a little bit. They don't have to go through everybody, but when you're going through the SEC as one of those teams there, or the Big Ten as one of those teams there, I mean, let's be honest, you're playing a heck of a lot of teams that are real teams that are ranked higher and are going to be a heck of a lot more difficult to beat. But and I love Notre Dame. They've got to do that. I think they do need to fix that into the future.
Yeah. Well, they always get some great recruits, and they made it all the way last year, Pete, but couldn't get over the hump. And this year, I don't know if this team's as good as last year's team, but we'll see. Right. We'll see. The kids love to play for this coach too. Pete's absolutely right about that. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. If you'd like to really join us, then do scan that QR code, which will take you to marketrebellion.com/get started. That will get you into mentoring, coaching, any kind of educational process for charts, for shorts, for option trading and so forth. And of course, all of our subscription stuff. It's at marketrebellion.com/get started. You can just scan that QR code and make it easy on yourself. And Pete and I will be back at 1 p.m. tomorrow, 1 p.m. I'll be coming to you, I think, Pete, from Cardone Studios tomorrow.
All right. That'll be great. See ya.
See ya.